Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Megan, and in today's video we're going to talk about my top 5 reads in the year of 2024. I was going to hop on the trend and do my top 24 books in the year of 2024, but unfortunately this year was a little bit lackluster for me. I did not have a lot of 5-star reads. I am such a serial reader. Like, whenever I find a book that I even remotely like, super fast, I'll just binge all of the books in the series. And that's something for 2025. I really want to be a little bit more intentional when it comes to my books and just slow down a little bit. But with that being said, I didn't really remember a lot of the books that I read in 2024. I was going back through them and I could only come up with 5 books that, hands down, the best books I read of the year. One of them is a reread, and even rereading it, it was still top 5 for me. So I'm going to go ahead and share them with y'all today. I own the physical copies of 4 of the books, and one of them I have it on my Kindle. But let's go ahead and jump in and get started. The first book I have is Firebolt by Adrienne Woods. This book, hands down, is one of my favorites. I'm going to start off with the reread. I did read this for the first time in 2021. I reread this series every single year for the past several years now, and it is still hands down one of my all-time favorite series. This book, as I talked a little bit about it in my bookshelf tour, but if you love Hogwarts and if you love Fourth Wing, this is definitely the perfect book for you. This is a YA book. It reads a little young, but that doesn't bother me at all. That's just how good this book is. This book follows Elena Watson. I don't have my glasses on right now. I just tried to adjust them. Ignore my kids, they're playing in the living room. But this book follows Elena Watson, and she lives with her dad. She's an only child. Her dad's a single dad. Her mom left when she was about 2 to 3 years old, and ever since her mom left, her and her dad have been on the run. They about every 3 months have to up and move, and Elena's really sick and tired of it. She really just wants to have a normal life, wants to settle down. She's in high school now. I believe she's 16, and again, she just wants that normal life. Well, one day she gets home from school and she's really excited because she thinks that this might be it. This might be the time that they settle down. This is the town. She's made some friends. She never makes friends with the fear of up and leaving, but she thinks this is it. Well, she gets home and her dad's like, okay, we have to leave again, like something's wrong, and she gets really frustrated. So as they're leaving, she's really upset at her dad, and they're kind of arguing, and then they get attacked, and they get attacked by not 1, not 2, but 3 dragons. And she's freaking out because she's never heard of dragons before. Like, what the heck is this? And then come to find out her dad is also a dragon. So during this whole fight that's going on, she ends up passing out, and she wakes up in this different world called Pagaya. And she kind of heard about Pagaya a little bit growing up because her father used to tell her stories about it all the time, but that's just what she thought they were. She thought they were stories, and come to find out it is real life, and now she is living it. She gets enrolled in Dragonia Academy, where all the humans train alongside dragons, which are shapeshifters, to become a dragon rider. So that's just a little bit about this book. If you haven't ever heard of it or picked it up, I highly recommend. Out of all of these books, this is probably my number 1 recommendation right here. Firebolt, again, by Adrienne Woods. Next, we're going to jump right into some hockey romances. Anybody who knows me knows I have this massive thing for hockey romances. I don't even know why, like, out of all the sport romances I've ever read, that hockey has just been my favorite. I have never even watched a hockey game before. But I have 2 coming up, and these are one of my absolute favorites. The first one is Offy by Avery Keelan, I think is how you pronounce it. This book is great if you're looking to get into sport romances. This is the perfect book to start out with. This book follows Chase and Bailey. Bailey just broke up with her boyfriend. He broke up with her on her 21st birthday, so she goes out with some friends to a bar and looking to, well, her friends are trying to get her to hook up with somebody. I mean, the best way to get over somebody is to get under another, is what they're saying. So they're really pushing for her to meet somebody, and so she does. She meets this guy named Chase, and they kind of hit it off, and they go to leave, and on the walk to Chase's apartment, she ends up vomiting all over him, and that's kind of how they meet. It's really a not so meet cute. Anyway, so after that, he takes her home. He takes care of her. He doesn't want to leave this drunk girl laying on the side of the road or anything. And they kind of hit it off, have a little bit of friendship. And it kind of evolves from there. It's really good. Chase, of course, I believe is the captain, or he's on the rival hockey team of her ex-boyfriend and her brother. So a little bit of like forbidden romance going on here, but I definitely recommend you pick this up. The next book I have is The Graham Effect by Elle Kennedy. This is, I believe, the spin-off series from the Off-Campus series, which is like the deal, the score, the mistake. And this book follows the characters from the first book, Garrett Graham. This follows their daughter, Gigi Graham. But this book is about Gigi and Ryder. They're both hockey players, and they kind of use each other for personal gain. Ryder is using Gigi to figure out how to get into her father's good graces because he really wants to be a part of this exclusive camp that her father runs, and she is looking to for Ryder to help her because she wants to make the USA Olympic women's hockey team, and she needs a little bit of help working, I think, behind the net. So they kind of use each other a little bit, and things go from there. This is pretty good. Again, this is a spin-off from the Off-Campus series, but it's also like interconnected standalone. You don't have to read this to read this, but I do recommend reading those as well. But The Graham Effect. The next book that I'm going to talk about, I don't have a physical copy. I have that on my Kindle, and that is Broken Bonds by Jay Bree. It is part of the Bonds That Tie series. I cannot talk about this book series enough. It is absolutely amazing. It is a why choose though, so I'm not sure if that's your thing. Personally, why chooses have never been my thing. I have never liked a book where, for those of you who don't know, I'm sure most of you do, but a why choose is basically when the main character cannot choose between 2 or 3 love interests, so they have them all at the same time. So normally when I come across a book like that, I immediately DNF it. It's just not my thing. But this book, I don't know what it is, and I think because maybe it's a dystopian where it's normalized in this world. Everybody has what they're called bonds, which essentially is kind of like fated mates. They were meant to all be together. They're all supposed to be together. That it just made it a little bit easier, I guess, for me to comprehend and understand. But anyway, this book series follows Oleander Fallows. It starts off by she gets in a car wreck with her mother and her mother's bonds, and they pass away. And while she's in the hospital, she's excited a little bit because she's going to meet her bonds, and how you find out who your bonds are is through blood testing, and then you find out who's like genetically made for you that way. But she had gotten, while she was at the hospital, the results of her bonds, and she figured out who they were, but unfortunately she ended up getting kidnapped. And now she's on the run. She's been on the run for several years, and she's been running from her bonds because whatever happened in the first book, it doesn't say what happens. That's kind of a little bit of a mystery. But whatever had transpired after her car accident, she's now on the run from it, and she knows that being with her bonds is essentially dangerous. It's going to put them in harm's way, her in harm's way, and essentially like the fate of their little world excuse me, in harm's way as well. So she's on the run. Well, she ends up getting captured by her bonds and forced to come back because one of her bonds is a councilman, and it's looked down upon that she has run away. So they are now forcing her to stay, and it kind of follows her journey. She is desperately trying to get away from them because she's running from something, but we're not sure what she's running from. And she has 5 bonds. It's North Draven and Knox Draven. They're both brothers. Then you have Gabe, Atlas, and Griffin, and this is a very spicy book series. I think there's 5 or 6 books in total, but I highly recommend that you pick this up and read it if it sounds even remotely interesting to you. It was definitely 5 stars for me. Moving on to the last book that I'm going to talk about today. This is my most recent read. I read this book about 2 weeks ago, and I have not been able to stop thinking about it. I am actually going to reread it because I was gifted the second book in the series for Christmas, and before I read that one, I want to reread this one, so it's fresh in my mind, and that is Daughter of the Pirate King by Tricia Levenseller. This book was so good. If you're definitely a fan of The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen, I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but if you are also a fan of just badass main characters that can handle their own, is good in a fight, this is definitely the book for you. This book follows Alosa, and she is a daughter of the Pirate King, and she runs her own ship. She's the captain, and she gets captured by this rival group of brothers, and anyway, she gets captured, and she's making herself out to be this little damsel. She's a little princess, like she can't handle herself, blah blah blah, but essentially she wanted to be captured. Her father wanted her to be captured to try and get a map that is on board this ship. And it's so great because, again, she's playing like this little, oh, I'm a princess, I need all my bags, I love all my beautiful dresses, blah blah blah, but in reality she's such a badass bitch, and you have to read it. I can't really say much without giving away the whole plot of the book, but that's all I can say. But this is definitely 5-star reads for me, and like I said, I read it 2 weeks ago. I already want to reread it. That's how good it was. So anyway, that's everything I have for you. I'm sure there were others that I read that were really good, but these are just the top 5 that I wanted to share with you today. Again, like I said before, if you made it this far in the video, if you want to comment below one of your top 5 reads of 2024, I'd love to hear it, to give me some more inspiration, give me some more books to read in 2025. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a good night.